How's it going, brother?
It's going well. I'm on the other side.
Yeah. How does it feel?
I'm all right.
Yeah.
I'll get used to it. Yeah.
Uh, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough.
Well, yeah, you got to do, you got to lead the way, and you just
Yeah.
did a really tough workout.
The good thing is I get to ask all the questions. So
Yeah. So I got to
hopefully
sit
you'll
here and think. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is cool. We're doing a little faux fireside chat
Sure,
with
yeah.
you.
Yep.
I did a little bit of preparation.
Okay.
I brought a piece of paper
Yep.
just
Very
because
official.
I want to go off the cuff, but I also have questions that I want to make sure I get in.
Yeah,
So I'm
cool.
putting this here in case I don't get to it.
For sure.
But I think this is good for kind of some of the members to get to know you a little bit more personally.
Yeah, sure.
You're always sort of on the other side interviewing members. So I thought maybe it would be interesting to kind of open up a little bit about your life.
Sure.
So we'll start kind of at a very basic level.
Yep.
And I know some of these things, but
Sure.
I'm not representative of everyone. So just first of all, like, tell me a little bit about kind of yourself. Where'd you grow up? Do you have siblings?
Yep.
Where'd you go to high school? Where'd you go to college?
Yeah.
A little bit of background.
I am pretty much as local gets. Grew up in Walnut Creek, born and raised in Walnut Creek. Now live in Concord, so just right next door. Went to Northgate High School, and then finished high school, of course. Went to college, San Diego State. Finished San Diego State, spent a little time just kind of bumming out at the beach. Was a bartender for a year. I was just like, I'm going to put my life on hold for a minute and just like do this fun thing. Got back to it, went to grad school up at San Francisco State, and then just kind of found myself right back where I started in the Bay Area. Got a brother who most of you probably know at this point, a younger sister, and yeah, my folks are local too. They live in Walnut Creek. And then as far as this whole situation goes, we've been doing this about 8 years, so the last 8 years of my life has been primarily dedicated to making this function and work and all that stuff.
What was your upbringing like? Tell me a little bit about the family dynamic growing up. Dad, mom, strict dad,
Yeah.
strict mom. What your parents do for work? Like, tell me a little bit about sort of growing up in the
yeah.
household.
My mom was in accounting, so CPA, and it's like the details of when you're like 5 to 15. Like, I don't have a good recollection, but like as an adult, my primary recollection is her working for a hotel group in Berkeley, and she was their I guess accounting operator or whatever the
Back office stuff.
chief
Yep.
accounting person was for that operation. And then my dad is civil engineer, and both of them go to the gym. By the way, I don't
Yep.
know if you knew that. Or
Saw your
if you knew
dad.
that.
The video you posted
Yeah.
of your father
Do the legless
climbing
rope climb. Yeah,
rope at 70.
Yep.
Impressive.
day before his 70th birthday.
Yeah.
He's a civil engineer, and he's actually still working. He worked for a number of years for East Bay Municipal Utility District, water,
Mhm.
wastewater. And now he's the director of I think it's called BACWA. It's like
Okay.
a clean water special district kind of thing, something like that. And upbringing, I actually grew up somewhat atypically in that at one point in time, we had my great-grandmother, grandmother, aunts, great-grandmother, grandma, grandpa, aunt, and uncle, as well as our 5 units of family, all living in the same roof.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not all of them at the exact same time, but definitely within close concert, them living, under the same roof. And so my grandparents have lived with us in the same house. Obviously, I moved out at some point, but in the same house since I was 5. And then my great-grandmother, she passed away when I was 8 or 9 or
Yep.
something like that, so that's fairly early on. And then my aunt has intellectual disabilities, so she's got special needs stuff going on, and so she's lived with, under that family umbrella unit for, the last, how old am I? 35, 30 years,
Okay.
something like that. So I grew up with a
So
somewhat
so
interesting
from
family
5
dynamic.
years up, you had grandparents.
Yes.
living with you,
Yes.
and then aunt.
Yes.
So you were raised by more than just your folks.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? You
So
had a
both my
lot
parents worked,
Yep.
and so my primary caretakers for the first. I mean, you develop some autonomy at some point. So like I'm 15, I'm a
Sure.
teenager, I get a driver's license or whatever. But from basically like 5 to 15, my primary care provider, chauffeur, meal prep person, lunch maker was basically my grandma, and my grandpa would do all the like driving stuff, and my
Yep.
grandma would do all the householdy kind of stuff and
Yep.
make us do chores and that kind of stuff. And then my parents would come home at night, and then that dynamic took over.
So
So
your parents worked full time, so they were
yeah,
pretty busy.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did you and Andrew share a room growing up?
yeah, we did.
Up until you left the house, like through high school?
Well, let's see. God, to be forced to recollect some of this stuff is gotta.
Well, you had a full house, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't be unusual.
Sure.
Right? Like you.
Yeah, exactly. We shared a room until, let's see, from 5 until I don't have any memories before 5 basically. So
Okay.
from 5 until let's see, when did we move? I was a junior in high school, so like 17.
Okay.
And then I had my own room for one short year before I went to college. So yeah, I shared a room with Andrew for, what does that end up being? 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
Did you guys get along growing up, or were you kind of
I would
fighting,
say
or what
it was
was
like
the relationship like?
fairly typical, like close aged. We're only 22 months apart, so
Yep.
close aged brother dynamic. So that's sort of like constant competition for the I don't want to get like the alpha and stuff like that, but like we're the same size, about the same age, and so a lot of wrestling and roughhousing and those kinds of things, and then you grow up, and then it basically just becomes like, oh, we're adults now, and we've been running a business together for the last 8 years, so obviously the relationship is at least satisfactory.
Intact.
Yes, it's intact enough to run a business for that duration. So yeah, but in general we get along very well, and we have very similar interests and I would say somewhat converging opinions on at least matters of fitness and,
Yep.
and health and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
I get it. I do have a question more specifically about that
Sure.
that I'll get to. So you bartended out of college,
Yeah.
then you came back here.
Mm-hmm.
You got a job, a desk job,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Obviously, that was not providing sufficient fulfillment for
Mhm.
you, right?
Yeah.
So how did you tell us a story of how CrossFit came to be? Like,
Right.
how did you make that transition from the desk job to a business owner?
Sure. So I was living in Korea I was teaching English and living in Korea. And at that point in time, let's see, I was maybe like 27 or something like that. And
Single.
no, I actually went there with my now wife. We
Okay.
went there as a couple and, got married at some point along the line in there. We went there as a couple, and so I was in Korea teaching English. And let's see, Andrew would have been kind of like finishing up his master's degree. And so the conversation came about, hey, there's this CrossFit thing. I was like, oh, what's that all about? And so he was coaching, and things were very, in 2007, 8, 9, somewhere in
Mhm.
there, very undeveloped compared to what they are now in terms
Mhm.
of like fitness and CrossFit and all this kind of stuff. And so he was helping a guy, and he was working and doing all this stuff and learning about all these things. And he had just gotten a degree in exercise science, and I had gotten a degree in some other unrelated thing. And so we were talking about, hey, well, when I come back, we should open up a gym.
Mm-hmm.
And that was basically it. That was the plan. There was no business plan. There was no lenders. There was no seed capital. It was just like, oh, we're going to do this.
Yep.
And we stupidly went out and just signed a lease and kind of cobbled it together and made it happen. So I was kind of learning CrossFit on the side in Korea, just trying to hack it together. He was developing it a little bit more kind of professionally and as a coach and all that kind of stuff. And then when we came together, the idea was he would be, more head coach and I'm kind of more admin. And then
Yep.
eventually I'd obviously learn coaching stuff along the way. And then that is the origin story.
And so you guys kind of went into it pretty casually. Like, not casually in the sense of you weren't committed. You guys were all in.
Sure.
You weren't going to have a secondary job. but that you guys didn't put there wasn't a lot of formality to it. You were kind of like, hey,
No.
let's do it. We trust each other. We have what it sounds like complementary skill sets,
Yeah.
right? You have the credentials in
Sure.
terms of the fitness
Yep.
category. I'm good at the administrative stuff,
Yep.
being the operator.
Yep.
And so tell me, so you signed a lease, like how did that all work? You found a location, did it have equipment, or did you, so what's all that story?
I mean, this can unfold into an unnecessary long conversation. But I'll try and at least give
The bridge version?
yes, the Cliff Notes version. So the older I get, the stupider I realize I was. It's like the further distance there is from that point, the more I'm just like, oh my God, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
So we literally went in with no plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we had some savings and stuff like that. And that was kind of our like, okay, this is how we're going to make this work. And we saw a building. We're like, hey, there's a phone number. We called the phone number.
Good location.
Good location. Yeah, it was the one in downtown Walnut Creek. We had kind of casually looked at places around, like, oh, there's this place in Dublin, and
Yep.
we were actually deciding between Northern and Southern California, because I was living in Southern California at the time, kind of planning this out,
Okay.
and looking at like radiuses and stuff. So
Yep.
from a business planning perspective, I was doing a decent amount in terms of just like planning the gym, but in terms of like a hard business, permits, building, equipment,
Yeah.
that was not as well attended to. So there was a phone number, and we called it up. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We got hooked up with a real estate broker who was a member at another CrossFit gym who had helped them open their CrossFit gym, and he put us in touch with this guy, and I happened to stumble upon the building. I just happened to drive by it and call the number and be like, oh, it's the same place. So teasing out these details as I recall them. So anyway, we go look at this place. It's a big empty shell. For anyone who's been there, it's a big, shitty, uninsulated, empty shell. And we go, great, looks good. Sign the lease. And they let us sign the lease, which in retrospect, I'm thinking, like, when we signed the lease here, there was way more due diligence on the landlord to, like, make sure that we were suitably equipped to do this.
Financially stable.
Yeah,
like, there was
just way more.
Different times, 2007, 8, 9, where they were
different times, and maybe a bigger barrier to entry in this building in particular. It's a nicer building.
Sure.
It's cost more, all this kind of stuff.
There's a lot more demand, maybe.
And a lot more demand. So the building that we went into had sort of a storied past of being unpermitted and janky and under the radar, no signage, people just kind of like doing stuff in the shadows. And we signed the lease, thought, all right, great, we're just going to open up.
Yep.
And then we got, the city got called on us by a neighbor who ended up not being a neighbor at some point. So when we first opened, or when we were planning on opening, Forma Gym was there, like right at that corner, which is now the bathroom fixture place.
Okay. Yep.
And one day, I was like, oh, here's a gym. I went in there, and I was like, hi, can I get a tour? And they're like, sure. And this guy comes downstairs, and he goes, hey, I'm whatever his name was. I go, hey, I just made up some name, because I was like, I know how he is. I don't want to be hassled with all this like stuff.
Yep.
So I made up a name, and I filled out their form and stuff, and he gives me a tour. I'm like, great, cool. I didn't realize that guy was the owner of the place, and he took that incredibly personally. And he called the city on us and got us red tagged and all this kind of stuff, which actually, turns out, was a blessing, because if we had not had that intervention, we would have opened up, had business, got red tagged later, and had to shut down.
It would have been.
So getting stopped before we started was the best, even though it was a horrible journey to get that done. Getting stopped after we had already gotten started illegally would have been a nightmare. So anyway, I go in there.
I appreciate your humbleness in describing that story, because I know that your meeting with that person was intentional, and you knew he was the owner, and you knew that he would do the red tagging, like he would call the city, right? That was all planned.
Seriously, I was naive as shit.
You're like, wow, thank you. You did me a favor.
He literally he came over, and I was like, you go into a gym, 24-hour fitness. I don't know anything about gyms.
Like, that's pretty.
Well, here's the thing: is like, I'm not like in the gym market necessarily at this point in time. So I don't know if any given gym is independently owned. I don't know if it's chain. I don't know if they have 600 locations across the country. I have no idea. So this guy comes around. I just thought he was like a trainer, just giving a tour, just like anybody else.
Yeah.
Hey, Brandon, could you give this guy a tour?
Sure.
And he's like, sure. And then they open a gym. And he's like, oh, that was weird. You know, it's like, that was what I thought
Sure.
was happening. So anyway, I'm sitting there one day. I don't know, I'm doing something on my phone. He comes around the corner. I'm hanging out at that gate, and he comes around and like, oh, hey, what's up, man? He goes, I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but I could tell he was pissed, and I was confused as to why he was pissed because I thought he was just some trainer guy.
Sure.
And he goes, I'm gonna bury you. I'm gonna, you know, he was making like these threats and stuff
Wow.
like that. Like, I'm gonna end you. Maybe I think it was that. I think I'm gonna end you. I was like,
Wow.
okay. I was seriously like dumbfounded. I was like,
Right. Where did this come from?
I was like, wow, it's so weird. Obviously, later I found out he's the
Sure,
owner, and
sure.
you know, I can see how I would take that personally if some guy comes in and tries to whatever.
Tries to what? Learn about your business?
Yeah, basically. Well, I mean, before I started, I was like, well, I should probably make sure that they're not
Take it
offering
as a
CrossFit
compliment.
in here. Well, and it's so weird too, because it's like, do you know how many fitness places there are in
Yep.
a stone's throw of this location? There's literally, like, I can see a yoga studio
Exactly.
from my driveway. There's another yoga studio right behind that.
Yep.
There's Lynch Fitness down the street. There's a cycling place. There's now like 3 cycling places. It's like,
Yep.
yo, we're in fitness density mecca.
Yeah.
In downtown Walnut Creek, and
Just-
we're doing CrossFit, man. It's
You
not
gotta
even
do-
the same
you got-
fucking thing.
Very, just in my opinion, very immature thing to do.
Yeah, whatever.
But
So,
it is what it is, right?
It is what it
Who
is.
cares, right? It was
Yep.
so.
So we go into the building. That's all settled. Before we even opened, they ended up moving anyway, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like all for nothing. So anyway, we get red tag. We go through the city. We don't know what we're doing. We're trying to find architects. We're trying to find builders. We think we're sunk. We think we're dead in the water. We think we're totally hosed. We managed to get some designs, and we managed to get some stuff. We managed to push it through the city. We managed to get stuff started. And we're like, okay, here we go. It's all going to go fine. Then we're cleaning stuff up one day, getting ready for construction, getting ready. Okay, here's what we want to have happen. And we look at the ceiling. We go, what do you think the odds are that's asbestos?
Oh God.
So we get it tested. It's asbestos. So then we're shut down because then we got to get it cleaned up. Landlord, we call the landlord. We go, hey, we want to cancel the lease. Why? Because there's friable asbestos in the ceiling. You didn't disclose that to us.
Yeah.
It wasn't disclosed in the lease. That's a breach of something. You know,
Sure.
we're just trying to like manage what's going on. They're like, we'll clean it up. It's like, all right, clean it up. Great. Prorate the rent. Great. Okay. Back on track. So they clean it up. We come back in. We're like, it's not cleaned up at all. So we get a hazardous material inspector on our dime to come in and look at it. And they go, yeah, it looks like this is still bad. So we go, hey, it's not done. You got to clean it up. And so we go through that process 3 times. People are getting pissed. People are getting heated.
You've sold memberships at this point.
No, we haven't.
Okay, so okay. At least
Yeah.
nobody's like on hold.
Oh, we didn't.
Well, the
pre-sale.
business is on hold.
We didn't pre-sell any memberships. We opened our doors and like, all right, come on in, guys.
Exactly.
Build it and they will come.
That's how it's supposed
right?
to be, right?
Exactly.
Don't sell the future.
Well,
You gotta, you know,
in
it's
retrospect, right? But anyway, so we finally get this stuff cleaned up. Everyone's pissed. Everyone's like, we're getting threats from the company. They're like, we're not coming out again and all this kind of stuff. And we're sticking to our guns because we're like, look, we only have one shot to get this done right.
Yep.
And so we got it to a point where the hazardous material inspector came in and said, all right, looks good. And then it was painted on top of that. So we went above and beyond to get it all, you know, taken care of and stuff because we're like, hey, people are going to be breathing in here. So anyway, we get through construction. Construction takes 3 times as long as it's scheduled to take. Costs probably close to twice as much. And I just want to make sure I'm not. The origin story is taking all
Yeah.
the time.
I got a lot to go. Come
yeah,
on.
I know, right? And I'll just fast forward to the end. I got a call from the city or the permit something, and they said you pass, and I literally just burst out into tears right there because I was like, I never thought that I would actually get this far.
Yep.
I thought I was just gonna write checks until my savings was gone, and they were coming after me for a lease. I thought it was all over,
Yeah.
and we actually got to the finish line, and I just burst into tears. I didn't know.
Who,
it was just
who
like
was with
such
you
a
at that
relief.
moment when you got that call?
I was in the bathroom at my current desk
Really?
job by myself.
You were in the bathroom of wow.
I think I got a voicemail,
Yeah.
and I
You
took
just listened?
I was like, let me step outside. I'll take
Yep.
the call in the bathroom, and I was just like in shock and disbelief.
Wow.
And so we were able to open our doors.
And,
We're-
and so from signature of lease to that call was how long? 2 months?
We signed the lease the day before Thanksgiving 2011, so that was November 23rd. 2011, and that call was on July 31st, 2012.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of stress,
Oh yeah.
worry, build up.
Oh yeah.
Like, what did we do?
Conversations like this, me,
yeah.
my brother, and my dad sitting in his
Yep.
office, just going like,
Yep.
"What are we gonna do?
Yep.
What are we gonna do?"
So that makes for a good story today. Fast
Yeah.
forward many years, and
Yep.
and by the way, it's supposed to be hard. We've talked about this.
Sure,
It's
yeah.
never like easy.
Yep.
So you had struggle.
Yep.
Name of your first customer was who?
David Parker.
Is he a member?
No.
First customer was David Parker.
Yep.
First payment was from David Parker to your
Yep.
gym.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's I'll never forget that because it's literally the first person. Somebody signed up on the website.
Yeah, that's
Oh my
awesome.
God.
Yeah, you
And
look
on
it
the
up
first
and you,
day, we had one person. And it was like, wow,
Yep.
this is incredible.
Yep.
And it was kind of a funny aside. We went to the same high school, and we didn't know each other. But let's see, his sister was in my grade or something like that. So I was like, oh wow, this is kind of an interesting coincidence.
Yep.
And later on, his wife took our baby pictures when we had our daughter, and it was just all of these were just pure coincidences
Yeah.
layered on top of one another. So Dave, you're still out there. Always welcome back.
Where,
Bumped into him.
where is he now?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, he was with us for, I don't know, a couple of months, and
Yeah.
then people
Sure.
go their own way and all
Yep.
that kind of stuff. I haven't seen him since. Yeah.
What is your superpower?
My superpower is
And by the way, there's more there, but we're just
Sure.
gonna.
my superpower. I think, and I suppose listen, I'd like to think my superpower is solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
Now that would imply that there's somebody there, that might imply that there's somebody out there whose problem has come to my attention and I haven't been able to solve.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't solve every problem. But I like to think that my thing that I do better than anything else is try and get to the root of problems
Mm-hmm.
and try and solve them.
Okay.
Because especially in this business, I don't want people to languish in agony. So I am fixated. If somebody's like, hey, my shoulder, my knee, my back, my elbow, I'm fixated on trying to get them a solution.
Yep.
Because otherwise, well, you're just going to live with
Sure.
pain your whole life.
Yep.
Like, let's get to the bottom of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges going into business with a sibling?
Um,
Not everybody goes into business with a brother, sister,
Sure.
parent. What are some challenges?
I would say it's disproportionately easy to kind of revert back to your teenage self.
Okay.
And like if you and I were to go into business, the sort of starting threshold would be we're professionals who are trying to come to some end, and you have this expertise and I have that expertise, and because that's how I'd say probably 90% of businesses are started is like that's how you started your business with your partners, and so there's that threshold of decorum that you never die below, probably, hopefully.
Mhm.
When you used to share a bedroom with someone, and I'm not saying give them noogies, this is just the metaphor, like I don't think I ever gave Andrew noogies, but like when there's that level of history, that can kind of creep back into the conversation,
Sure.
which makes it a
Yep.
little messy and a little difficult sometimes. But you get through those things, and you find a communication channel that works, given the fact that you go to a family gathering, and maybe there's some sort of friction in terms of like, what are we talking about in the gym right now? We're trying to get to some end, and then you're like, oh hey, how's your dog?
Yep.
Kind of thing.
Yep. Okay. What do you like most about being an entrepreneur?
I wake up nearly every single day, thinking of how I used to dread waking up at 7 or 7:30 and going into my office job.
Mm-hmm.
In 7 and 7:30, I mean, that just sounds so lazy and so late to me now, because this week I've woken up at 4 a.m., 4 a.m., 4 a.m., and 6 a.m.
Yep.
happily.
Exactly.
Now, is every day a miracle full of rainbows? No, sometimes I'm driving, I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of run down today, but
Yep.
I do it, and I've been doing it, and it is my energy where, you know, it's almost kind of like it's yeah, I mean, I don't think analogy is necessary. It just, I was waking up later, making more money, doing less work, and now I make less money, do more work, and wake up earlier, and I'm happier. And it's like,
Yep.
that's it. That's all there is.
Perfect.
Yeah.
How is your CrossFit business unique or different than your competition?
That's an interesting question because I don't pretend to know exactly what everyone's doing or how they're doing it, but the sense that I'd like to think is that we're trying to be of the highest quality possible. And everyone says that, oh, we're high quality coaches, but it's kind of more than that. So it's like the details where, to my knowledge, we have the lowest class caps. So coach to student ratio is the smallest, which means you're going to get disproportionately more attention than somewhere else. Considering how many members we have, I think we have the most class times. So there are gyms with more class times, but they also have way more members.
Yep.
We offer open gym. We do, as far as I know, we're the only one that does like a comprehensive introduction that involves, you know, like body fat testing and performance metrics on day one, goal setting and stuff like that. Because the indicators I have is that somebody comes from some other place and describes their experience, and that's just not a part of it.
Yep.
And so all those little details, like yes, we use barbells, and yes, we do thrusters, and yes, we work hard, but it's all those little details that I'm constantly trying to push and cultivate. And so when somebody comes to us and they go, hey, why do you cost $40 more a month than literally the gym right next to you, 2 doors down, I go, well, because we just do more for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, why does X car cost more than Y car? Well, it's like,
yeah,
it's not like one's a bad car and one's a good car. One's just more stuff involved with that car. That's it. So we try and be that version.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some books, or what is a book that has influenced your life?
I would say Tools of Titans. I really need to read more, as an aside. I think about that all the time. I don't read enough. But Tools of Titans. Because something that I've come to realize, foolishly, I thought in maybe my early 20s, maybe even into opening this business, is that talent and fate would somehow align and I would be magnificently wealthy and successful by the time I was whatever age, just because I thought I was smart and just because I thought like the stars would align, because you think that is what's happened for some other person that you admire, right? Because you see the end result. You read Tools for Titans and you read these stories of how people worked and struggled and were fixated and driven, and it's like, oh, the fixation, the drivenness, the persistence, the patience, the long term, you put all those things into a bucket, and that is how you can't guarantee success, but that is how you give yourself the best possible chance.
Yep.
And so reading that book really kind of opened my eyes to, all right, I have to kind of change my attitude in terms of what I'm willing to do and how long it's going to take to get there and what my expectations for success are.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always love reading kind of the backstory of entrepreneurship.
Yep.
You know, how people got to where they are, because I think it's very easy to look at people present, which is successful,
Sure,
all this money in the bank, but no one really gets the backstory of what even you described as an entrepreneur, right? From the 23rd of November to
Yep.
July,
Yep.
and how you were, that struggle and pain that you endured,
Yep.
right? And a lot of just, should we have done, questioning your decision making, and probably thinking it was a bad idea, and
Sure.
trying to get out of it,
Yep.
right? There's so many things that you went through. And so I think a lot of people, when I read about people or I listen to people's stories, to me what always impresses me most, and what I admire the most, is just learning about the struggle that they went through. Because it's very uncommon to hear that someone just opened their doors and had instant success, like it's just
Usually not,
it's
yeah.
the outlier, right? The more common story is maxed out 10 credit cards, got 30 no's from VCs,
Yep.
failed at this again, and you just hear I just love hearing the how I built, right? The NPR podcast, where people just various businesses
Sure.
that I just think about, and I'm like, the most interesting part of the story for me is always like, how did you get here? And tell me all about. Just saw this on a Maine lobster company, a company two guys started, two very, one went to, both I think Ivy League educated,
Right.
Dropped their jobs, just basically opened a store, a 200 square foot store in New York, and started selling lobster rolls.
Yep.
But the way they got there and how they're between the two families, they were doing all the construction of that space. Some of which was permitted, some of which was not.
Sure, yeah.
Just like I always love the struggle part of it, right? Like it wasn't easy. I had many reasons to get out of this, but I stuck to it, right? I kept on not accepting no as an answer.
Yep.
In your case, I mean, it's very consistent, right?
Yep.
You could have had a million excuses to get out of that, right? But you did it, right? And maybe you tried, but you couldn't. But the point is that you persevered. And then you fast forward, whatever it is, 7, 8, 9 years, and here you are, right? I don't think it was intended to be easy. If it were easy, I don't think people could be entrepreneurs, right? I think like.
Oh no! I mean, that struggle period of November whatever to July. I've got a kid, so we're dealing with a kid. I've been through grad school. I've had. In a long-term relationship, and there's ups and downs and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And those things all present challenges, and that's everything's unique in all that regard. But disproportionately, the hardest thing I've ever done, the longest period of misery I've ever had to endure, the most doubts, just pick all of the most negative things, and obviously I'm not some starving kid in the slums of India, so this is, kind of first world caricature of it. But disproportionately, the hardest thing I've ever done, the most I've had to endure, was that 9-month, and the biggest part of it was the uncertainty. Because if somebody told me, oh, just keep writing checks and just keep moving forward, and in July it'll be done, I'd be like, oh, well, that's easy.
Yeah.
But the uncertainty of it,
no guarantees.
Every month is a new rent check. Every month is builder, hey, what's going on? Every month is some new problem with the space and the plumbing and this and that.
There's no income; it's all expenses.
Oh yeah, I mean, we probably put, I don't know, upwards of 50 or 60 grand into what could have been a sinkhole.
Exactly.
And with no expectation of any outcome.
Yeah.
In fact, somewhat legally bound to pursue it to its bitter end. Because we couldn't pull out because we were in a lease.
Yep.
I mean, maybe the landlord would have had forgiveness, but that's somewhat unlikely. So that is disproportionately the hardest thing I've ever done, and for anyone who hasn't done that type of thing, it's it's character building. It's tough, and you come out of it, I think, a better person overall.
Yeah.
I would say.
And by the way, if it doesn't happen then, it will eventually happen, because being a business owner is just constant problem solving and conflict resolution, and just a lot of those things that you or your business partner or partner, someone has to be in the role to handle all those things, right? That's just part of the deal, right? Who is your role model? And why, or who might be a role model in your life?
I mean, the one that jumps out is my dad. I mean, he's, I think, you have a bunch of dynamics. You of course have the father-son dynamic. So you look to your father for guidance and inspiration, all that kind of stuff. But then also, my dad has a very interesting work ethic, because it's very high work ethic. I mean, he's working to 70. He doesn't need to. I mean, it's
choice.
By choice. It's purely like, I don't know what else to do. Work is, how I fulfill and all this kind of stuff. And the burdens that he and my mom have undertaken by way of taking in my grandparents and my aunts and my uncle and my great-grandma, and basically attending to the larger family.
Yep.
When you take your kind of average American family and it's bills and all this kind of stuff, they're struggling to put two and two together and make ends meet. And the work ethic of my parents as a larger unit has provided for way more than what would normally be expected. and then just, it's somewhat manifested in a small sense of what he does in the gym. It's consistent. He doesn't complain. He works hard. If things bug him, he's, wise and mature enough to just lay off of it. And if things feel good, he goes for it. And somebody who's done that for, let's say, 30 years running will end up getting to a place where they can do rope climbs at 70. And so I look to that and go, all right, I'm 35. The next 35 years, I hope to be a person that doesn't fall off the wagon and doesn't, pivot and change into some weird other person. I want to follow in those footsteps and be a person that can happily enjoy my work at 70 and do a legless rope climb and support others if needed, and be that kind of foundational person.
Yeah, I mean, I think your dad took in your mom's side of the family.
No,
right?
his side of the family.
Okay, but there was another grandparent too?
So it was my father's sister, mother and father, and grandmother.
Okay, and grandmother. Okay, that's what it was. Yeah, so your dad had a lot of responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Not only his own immediate family, I mean his family,
sure,
via wife, but also like just his own family.
Yeah.
Like that's not very,
No, it's not very common, and it's probably more burden. Like my mom and dad undertook more burden to pull that off than you really would have to if you were just trying to live like a chill, happy life.
Yeah, just husband, wife, and kids, right?
Yeah.
There's fewer complexities, and
sure,
you give up a lot, but it's something that I think about for myself too. What would I do if one of my parents passed? And for me, it would be like very easy. Like my mom or dad, I don't want them alone. Come to me.
Yep.
I'll find a room in my house.
Sure. Yeah.
Like it would just be never put you in a nursing home or
sure.
They have other terms for it, right? Assisted living or
right,
whatever.
Right. Yep.
But yeah, for me it'd be like, come with me. So, but then your dad multiplying that, right?
Well,
a sister, a sibling.
Yeah.
Plus, mom and dad. It's
Well, I mean, it's taken one step further to the extent that my dad, along with his work ethic and planning and all this kind of stuff, is basically got all the papers and everything aligned for their ultimate end game, and the sort of like, in not so many words, was, you don't have to worry about us.
Yep.
We have made sure that you don't have to do what we did. Which is like, it's like, wow, that's it's good. It's a relief because it looked like a lot, but then also it's kind of like, I don't necessarily know if I want to be relieved of any specific burden, because I feel like burdens are. I like the goal in my life is not to like remove all burdens.
Yeah.
To the extent I can is to selectively take on burdens that I want to take on, to allow them to help me grow and mature and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
And burdens get imposed, of course, but like the
goal.
goal.
Embrace. And there might be another word to use other than burden.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, embrace those responsibilities, or I don't know what they are, right? But
Absolutely.
burden to me implies it's kind of like the nutrition analogy: diet versus nutrition. Burden could be,
right.
Well,
I mean, I suppose that's how they phrased it. Is we don't want to be a burden, so we are going to plan.
We don't want to be an inconvenience burden, right?
Right.
No.
As such.
Yep.
But yeah.
Okay. What is your North Star? I guess there's a personal and a professional North Star.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be curious to hear both. Just my personal North Star is kind of very simple. Like for me, it's I want to end up somewhere in Mexico on the beach in a shack with paddleboard in the front and just a very simple life where I'm just with family or just simplify my life eventually. Right? Like get out of this area and kind of just relax in a different culture. Right? So that's kind of how I think about not my business life, my personal life. Like that's kind of would be very calming, relaxing, simple.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, what is your kind of, I guess, both professional and personal North Star?
Personal, I mean, really it just boils down to my family at this point. It's we are. Seems like this isn't going to air for a couple weeks from now, but we're expecting another.
Oh, you
another
are?
kid. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And so that kind of
Jesus.
rounds out.
When we were talking, okay.
Yeah, this will have sense. Probably we'll probably have announced something on Facebook
All right,
by
that's
the time
cool.
this goes. But
Wow. So when is your wife due?
in mid-May.
Cool.
Yeah. So we will now have our kind of goal family of 4 or whatever it is, and then we go like, okay, well, we have our family units, and to me that has become the North Star. My wife was recently out of town with my daughter, and for every day that you come home and you're kind of like beat up and you don't want to talk to anybody, coming home to an empty house was like way worse. I was just like, man, I'm just so
empty.
Just like,
it's empty.
What am I supposed to do? I'm just like,
yeah.
Well, I want more than anything to play with my daughter and talk to my wife right now, because that is just so comforting to me.
Yep.
And so you have those little moments to make you realize, like, all I want is just to spend time with my family and just have fun with them.
Yep.
That's it. So that's family North Star. And so Andrew has a baby now, and hopefully my sister and brother-in-law have kids at some point, and they live close, and so you've got this extended family dynamic, and that's all outstanding, and it adds to the richness of that, I think. And then as far as business, it's just part 1 is build something worth building. So I think, disproportionately attracted to opportunities that are not very, let's see, what am I trying to say? I am disproportionately attracted to opportunities that require my personal touch. Mm-hmm. Because of what I mentioned earlier about that superpower of wanting to solve people's problems.
Yep.
So it becomes kind of harder to do that if you have just like this sweeping 10,000, if I'm selling sandwiches, I feel like it just wouldn't be the same sort of fulfillment as when I sit down and I work with so-and-so for an hour and they go, wow, that really helps. That's a lot better. And I go, yes.
Yep.
Like, those victories are everything. So I want to build things worth building that disproportionately allow me to do that type of thing.
Yep.
And then I think I hedge between the shack on the beach and the Gary V of knowing myself well enough that I would never do that.
Yep.
Knowing myself well enough that I would be there for probably like a week and be like, you know what? Let's start a little business out here. Let's get a little crap shack. And I would just like, I think that's in my DNA and I can't help it.
You'll be like your dad.
I think so.
Right? In that regard.
Yeah.
Right? You just, work is going to be providing a ton of fulfillment.
Right.
Right?
And so, the flip side to that was, what is a job that I could have when I'm 75 that would be not too taxing, because I'll clearly be much older, still provide enjoyments.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to figure out what that thing might be.
Okay.
Because I think I will probably work until the day I die, not because I'm a workaholic, but because I think it's just in my DNA and I can't help it.
Yep.
So.
You may, by the way, end up following your kids. Your kids may say, Dad and Mom, daughter, you might have a son, or I don't know, 2 daughters, whatever.
Yep.
They may decide after college, they're like, I'm moving to Boston.
Yeah.
And you may say, I'm moving to Boston.
Yeah.
Right?
Cool.
So you don't know, right? Something tells me, for me, I want to be close to my kids.
Right.
For me, I just know how I am. I'm pretty hard on the exterior, but interior when it comes to kids, like, I don't want to be like my parents on the other side of the country.
Sure, yeah.
I literally want to be in the same neighborhood if I can,
Yep.
which is like the antithesis of us. We're 2 siblings in Europe. I'm in California. My parents are in Boston. We see each other at best once a year. I want the opposite. I want to be like my mom's friends in town,
right.
like you in your situation. You grew up in or in the area,
Sure.
Walnut Creek or whatever, and now your siblings are all there. That's like a dream for me.
Yep.
Right? The kids can be playing. So I think for me, it's wherever my sons are living, I'm just gonna I'm gonna be like, hey, I'll be the cool, like I won't bother you, but I'll be over here,
Sure,
and I'll get a really nice house, and you guys can come in here all the time.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
You know.
Exactly.
So we don't have too much time.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go through some, just more rapid fire questions to get through these. What's the most important object you own?
possibly the least materialistic person that I know.
Could be like a fitness tool, a stretch tool.
God,
or something.
I'm trying to reframe it to what would I be the saddest if it disappeared.
Yeah.
I don't have hardly anything of any sentimental value. I mean, if I'm being honest, it's probably my phone, which sounds kind of weird, but it's such a lifeline to
Okay.
the way I run my life.
Perfect. Good
yeah.
enough. If you could change anything about yourself, what would it be? This requires honesty. This is like anything.
I know. Okay. No, I know. I get distracted pretty easily, so it's actually quite hard for me to finish things through to the very end, and this goes really through all veins of my life. And so the ability to stick through something to the end the way I envisioned it to begin with would be an amazing asset that I do not have.
Perfect. Favorite word?
Favorite word? Oh, there's so many good words. I think I might have to pass. I don't have a favorite word. I have a lot of words I like to use.
What turns you on?
I like seeing people flip the switch from believing they cannot to believing they can. To me, that gives me an unbelievable amount of motivation and energy, because that unlocks all the doors.
Yep.
So I mean, obviously interpret that very business-like, but like literally someone going, I can't, it's impossible, to realizing that they can is an immensely powerful thing.
What sound or noise do you love?
Right now, probably listening to my daughter talk and laugh.
Favorite curse word?
I'd say they're all pretty good. Use them all robustly and dynamically when they're appropriate. Yeah, I like them all. I don't
What's
have
the
a
first one
favorite.
that comes to mind? You just thought of one.
I mean, yeah, probably good old F-bomb.
All right.
Nothing wrong with that.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Honestly, this may sound kind of weird, but like something in entertainment. I play music.
Okay.
I enjoy making these videos.
Yep.
And I think I might be somewhat suited to something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions, but this one is a good maybe finisher if
Mhm.
we have no more time. But
Sure.
what do you want your members to remember about their experience here? When people are not here,
Yeah.
they're on vacation, they're thinking about CrossFit, they're thinking
Right.
about Eric and Andrew.
Right.
What do you want them to remember about their time here?
That's a great question. I want them to think that we did everything we could, and they can't find a place just like this because we did things in some particular way, and it was a unique, one-of-a-kind, irreplaceable experience. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I have others, but there's only so much time.
Well, let's do this. And now I have a separate file.
Perfect.
And so I can upload as much as
Perfect.
it'll allow me to.
Yeah. All right. This was interesting to me. If you could come up with something, but tell me
Sure.
something that is true that almost nobody agrees with you on.
Something that is true that no one agrees with me on. Oh my goodness.
Like, for example,
Mhm.
while you're thinking, like, we were talking today about diet, and I was like, oh, I made some improvements to nutrition. Let's
Mhm.
use the word nutrition,
Sure.
and we ended up sort of discussing that, and you challenged my statement, and you were right. But has there been a scenario where you have challenged someone's thinking, where they're just like, I don't agree with you, and you're like, but this is like very, very like factual? right? Where someone's just like, you know, they're like, I don't agree with you, I don't believe you. Where you're like, no, this is like this is wrong.
I mean, I would say there is a generalized resistance, and there's enough people out there that believe this, that make this, I think, a suitable answer to the question, and that is most people are unwilling to accept what it takes to get what they want in terms of fitness, which is why you see an enormous amount of shortcuts and hacks and plans, and for lack of a better word, get rich quick schemes, but just get fit quick schemes, right?
Yep.
Those are so prevalent, and people are so wanting to believe them. And the answer is truly, in as short as possible, work hard, don't be lazy, hold yourself accountable, eliminate your excuses, and do it forever. Like, that is how you get fit. No other recipe has ever worked for anyone except the one genetically gifted freak at the top of the pyramid that you can't repeat anyway, so why even consider it?
Yep.
So the one exception you can come up with doesn't even matter. For 99.9% of people, work hard, suffocate your excuses, don't buy into bullshit, do it forever, and quit whining about it. Like, that's all there is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. What advice would you give to a smart, driven college student about to enter the real world?
Okay, so
fast forward, your daughter is,
so she's like 22. I would probably have to parrot some Gary Vee stuff, because I really like how it kind of sits when he finishes a sentence and there's nothing left there's no rebuttal, and you have tons of time, so try everything. You can, I started this business at 27, and I could have started at 28, 29, 30 and probably ended up in just about the same space. So you've got like a decade to try stuff out. Hopefully along that line you find something that you like to do, and then you have to do it forever. I remember being in grad school and going up to one of my professors and saying, like, I'm thinking about starting my own consulting business and this and that, and you could tell he was looking at me like, geez, I've got this like ambitious, naive idiot in front of me, like, how do I nicely say to him, like, you can't, that doesn't make any sense, you don't have any expertise. But in my mind, I was like, well, I finished grad school, I'm ready.
Yep.
And it's like, just everyone that you admire has done it for like 5 times as long as you think they have.
Yep.
So, your friend's dad, who's the president of this and that, he spent his entire life doing this and that. And your friend's mom, who is, like some expert in whatever field, has been interested in that since she was 17. Yep. And has been, hitting that topic for 25 years. And so it's like, it just takes time.
Yep.
And so, just try and be patient. Yeah.
Okay. How has being a father changed you?
It has made my world way easier, because my world is much more narrow. So I don't give a moment's thoughts. Whenever it comes into my mind, I'm almost like, what a weird thing. I don't give a moment's thought to like partying, and I don't give a moment's thought to like being cool, or you pick the thing that the younger me, the 25-year-old me, most 25-year-olds are after. You take all that noise and clutter and you just throw it in the garbage, and you have 2 things to think about. I think about my family. Well, I have 3 things to think about. I think about myself, of course, my family, and my business.
Yep.
That's all my life consists of. And that makes it really simple. And adding the kid in there really just kind of gelled the whole thing together and made that make sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Were you trying to be cool and partying before you had the kid? I
mean, not exactly, but that gets presented to you as oh man, look at these people doing this stuff, and oh my God, and Ibiza, and oh man, people are taking vacations and all this kind of stuff. And then as soon as you have the kid, that noise just becomes like the faintest din in the background, as opposed to, well, maybe we should, I don't know, maybe we should get a new car, or whatever. You just, those distracting things become way noisier. Yep. And so you just get to throw all that stuff in the garbage and go, oh yeah, what the hell do I give a shit about, some friend of mine that I haven't talked to in 20 years, what they're doing on the East Coast, and it's like, who cares?
I think you begin to very clearly see what priorities are.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Where there could have been numerous priorities beforehand. Now it's, frankly, business owner, husband, father, myself. It's like, if you're striving to be good at all of those things, then I think there's no more you could take on. If you want to be a below average dad, below average husband, but kick-ass business person,
right,
you could probably take more stuff on, right? But if you're trying to be very good at all of those things, there's just no more time in the day, right? If you're doing all those things at an A level, right?
Right.
And so I think as you get older and you get more sort of wise and you have kids, I think you just realize that time is your greatest commodity. Like, it just becomes much more clear. And then you also look at relationships, and, you know, for me, I always do audits of relationships constantly. You know, like, for me, it's never been a quantity game, it's been a quality game, right? The little time I have, who do I want to spend time with? My family, and then just really close friends, right? That aren't going to be, it's not what Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter says. It's like, what are the number of people that are really in my life that matter, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So, and that's really all you can do, right? Because you have to invest in yourself, like you said, right? Because that's going to enable you to be really good at these other areas in your life.
Right. Yeah. If you don't take care of yourself, I mean, it's, you know, what analogy you want to use? You can't pour from a glass that's empty, you know. Yeah, I think that sums it up.
I think people don't realize that, and it comes at a cost, because they're very much like, I want to invest in this and this and this, with disregard to themselves, and it's not good. Like, you have to equally invest in yourself, and you have to be selfish in life. Selfish in life means...
If you want anything for yourself, for sure,
Right? You know, it's like one of those things I don't think people grasp.
Right.
But being selfish isn't a bad thing.
Right.
In the right context, right? Like, being selfish and investing in yourself allows you to be better in business, allows you to be better in your family life.
Right.
You know, I invest in myself, whether it's nutritionally or through fitness, because it allows me to be stronger in other areas of my life. Like, I wouldn't be able to operate at a certain level if I didn't make the investments in time with you and other things, you know. I don't love it always, but it's just, that's what is required.
Yeah, just got to get it done. I mean, I see the opposite manifestation of that on Facebook all the time, where you see someone feel that their duty is to take on the world's problems. And that becomes their highest aspiration, is to be the martyr for everyone's woes. And then it's like, hey, look at me, I'm just suffering so much, and I'm doing it for you. And you're like,
you're not doing me a favor.
Good luck for that, because the net effect is everyone around you is going to suffer a little bit, as opposed to if you rose to your best self, you pull everyone else up with you. The net effect of you being better is disproportionately good compared to you just taking on everyone's baggage. And I'm not sure what the end game of that is. My goal is to be as good as possible, so that my friends, families, relationship, business, wife, child, grandfather, whoever, rises with me, so I can offer them support.
This is right out of Tools of Titans. If you had a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, what would it say and why? So you could buy a billboard on the 680 here. It could be a quote. It could be...
Sure. This might be too long to put on a billboard.
It can't be CrossFit. It could be.
Right. I think the thing that I'm centering on more recently is the idea of, this may be too long to put on a billboard, but I think it's something everyone needs to take internally in here. Every problem that you have is worth solving, because once you solve it, you will feel better. And if you feel better, subsequent problems become easier to solve. So I don't know how you condense that to a billboard, but it's like something like, solve your problems, thank me later. You know, because if you actually solve them, you get a little bit better, and then you get a little bit better, and then problems get easier to solve. And then you don't live with pain, and you don't live with anxiety, and you don't live with trying to get rid of those things.
No matter what the problem, it can be solved.
Yeah, the whole idea of like, I just, you know, what is it? I don't want to necessarily pick on this movement, but like the body acceptance movement or whatever it is, it's like in no domain of your life should you just be okay just
Yeah.
hanging out.
Exactly.
What is the thing that shouldn't be improved?
Exactly.
Why shouldn't you try and be better? And I'm not saying like just aesthetically. I'm saying everything. Why shouldn't you try and be a better spouse, father,
Sure.
business owner, worker?
Yep.
What is the downside of being better?
Mm-hmm.
I fail to see the utility in that argument of just like, I'm just going to be me and do me and never change. And it's like, well, if you're unhappy at the end of that, you
Yeah.
only got one person to blame.
I mean, you can doing you is okay, but why not do the best version of you? Right?
Yeah.
Like doing you to me sounds like an excuse to not work hard at something, right?
Right.
Like I'm not saying don't be yourself, but being 400 pounds isn't being yourself. Being
Yeah, I mean-
yourself is being yourself, but being 400 pounds is unhealthy, right?
Well, look, anytime you see those things on TV and you've seen people, let's just say that person is like, oh, I'm super happy and I'm doing my thing. I'm sitting here from the outside looking in, going like, I don't envy. There's no jealousy factor here.
Yeah.
I'm not. There's not some element of your life that I would pretend to want to emulate. But I'll tell you, I sleep well. I eat well. I have energy. I can do everything I want. I have no obstacles in my life physically.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confident and I can take on challenges, and I have friends and family that support me. And it's just like, look, I've tried to build up the situation where things are going well and things are going well, and that's through work and sacrifice and taking on responsibilities and burden, not by running away from them.
Exactly.
So it's like, to me, those things just don't jive. I've never seen someone who states those things and be like, oh man, I got it all wrong. You totally cracked the code.
Yeah.
How foolish of me, and now I'm going to orient myself towards that. Not once, never in my life. And I just get disproportionately a little bit better, a little bit happier, a little more content, a little more satisfied with every passing year. And so I feel like I'm onto something.
Yep.
You know, that works for me.
I like your idea on the billboard though, because I think some people sometimes live with problems thinking that it's normal, when in fact
Right.
they're not normal, right? And they just say, okay, well, I feel this way, or
Sure.
I am this way, and that's just how I am. But sometimes it's actually a problem, and in credit to them is they just don't know it, you
Sure.
know. And or sometimes people don't want to see a doctor because they fear the result they'll get back or the news they'll get back from an exam or the blood
Right.
test or something, because someone actually told me that, and I never really thought about it from that point of view. Because for me, I'm the guy that wants to get the colonoscopy at 30.
Yeah.
I want to do things very preventative. Like as soon as I can do it, I'll do it, right? But I do think a lot of people are actually fearful. So it's like not everybody is wired the same way. So I do think that that's interesting, because you're basically letting, just, hey, that's an interesting sort of statement to make, right?
Right.
If you're living with a problem, if you have a problem, like it can be solved. It's just a matter of diagnosing it and getting to the root cause, right?
Sure.
I mean, most problems can be solved. I mean, I think.
Well, okay, so you take your classic person that walks through my doors and they're 42 and they're 50 pounds overweight and, like, I got to do something, I got to change. And they're like, it's like, let me flip the script. If you were to do everything I say and work hard and make sacrifices for the next 18 months and be slightly uncomfortable and slightly miserable during those 18 months, the next 40 years of your life will be disproportionately better than if you ignored solving that problem and just kind of, well, screw it.
Yeah.
So I think people don't appreciate just how young they are. So when somebody comes in who's 30, 40, 50, and they've already kind of given up a little bit, it's like, well, you still got 40 more years of that to go. Maybe 50.
Exactly.
Maybe 60. I mean, who knows how long people are going to be living, modern medicine, whatever. And if you just kind of give in now, it's like, well, you've sealed your own fate in terms of what those next 30, 40 years, and it's probably not going to get better. It's probably just going to slide down and get worse. So what if, through a small intervention of discomfort, sacrifice, a little bit of pain, a little bit of misery, a little bit of discomfort, maybe I already said that one, but all those things, we could tilt that to at least get no worse, and then maybe even get better.
Sure.
So that 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, you have more energy, you feel better, you want to do things that you used to do that you can't do anymore.
Yep.
It's like, to me, that proposition is a slam dunk, but it becomes increasingly difficult to convince people of that value.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to think of your life expectancy being, you know, much higher, right? So I think people don't have that point of view.
Yeah.
But I also don't think, what I realized as I got older is just the amount of work necessary to keep the body, well, you know, in tuned, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not as easy, right? And you have to work at it more because you're getting older and you can't get away with things as you could previously. So for me, that was like a learning that I, you know, basically came to realize was like, I can't get away with the things I thought I could get away with, right? My mind thinks differently than my body responds, right? They're
Yep.
at two different levels, right? So for me I just have to work at it more, right? Like,
Yep.
just, I've accepted that very, very, like, clearly, like, just, it's going to be something that I have to make a priority, right?
Yeah, and you know, this can get, so in my estimation, this is how it works. If you were to start at ground zero in whatever task you want, and you make 1 unit of progress, right, and that takes you 1 unit of time, your next unit of progress will take you twice as much time, right? So it's no progress is linear. You want to play guitar, you want to play hockey,
Sure.
you want to do weightlifting, you know, it basically goes like this and then it kind of flattens out. But here's the thing, once you get to this flattened out portion, it takes disproportionately less time to maintain.
Yep.
So right now I maintain like a pretty damn high level of fitness. If the CrossFit Games Open is any estimation and just kind of the general public is any estimation, I'm probably operating in, I don't know, like the top 0.5% of all people.
Mm-hmm.
Me maintaining that only takes a couple hours a week. Me achieving that took 10 years.
Yep.
And so once you get to a certain place, and that's for everything, you know, you could be a master violin player, played violin for 25 years, don't touch it for 10 more, and then pick it back up, and only have lost maybe 10%.
Yep.
But if you pick up the violin at 62 and think, oh, I'm going to be a virtuoso, and you put 3 months in, well, of course you're not going to make it.
Yep.
You know, it's like all of these little time equations work really bad in the beginning, tend to get better as you go, and then the more it's sustained, the more you have momentum, the better they kind of run in the long run.
Yep.
So to me, that's how all things work. You want to be financially successful, you want to play guitar, you want to learn how to swim,
Yep.
that's the equation. That's
Yep.
how it works. If you try and shortcut that, you'll never get there, ever.
Final question that
Yep.
all the members are dying to
Sure.
hear is, what's up with the beard and the hair? How long are we keeping this going for, and when are we trimming? Just got a lot of interest from people. Just wanted to know,
Sure.
like, can you tell us a little bit about this?
Periodically in my life, I just stop attending to it, and then I go, I'm sick of this, and then I trim it all back.
Okay, because we were going to
That's
start a
what
GoFundMe if,
Yeah.
if it was a financial thing. So
No, like I've said a couple times, I grow the hair for those that cannot. Right?
And you do that very well. The movement. Like, do you ever do one of these? Like, put your head down. And
When I used to surf, I do it all the time. When my hair would get this long
you're
and I would
like
surf,
Spicoli from Fast Times
it's
at
the most
Ridgemont
fun
High.
thing in the world to do. You come out of the water and that water
Like
comes up
Baywatch.
and it all slicks back.
Wow.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I think the female members are starting to get excited about the idea of that.
It's a fun and enjoyable thing. And hey, I went to school with a bunch of guys, 35, who, you know, could never grow a beard and who are balding, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, somebody's got to seize the gifts
Yeah.
in front of them, and you know,
It almost
just
is a
rock
little
it.
Viking-like.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's cool. It's
and it's winter.
and your wife, most importantly, likes it.
Oh, loves it.
She loves it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, she loves it. Okay.
She is thrilled to death with the fact that my
You heard it here.
my hair
Wow.
is poorly manicured. And
She loves it. She's not even saying trim it. No, are you kidding? Or are you serious?
oh, I'm 100% kidding. She hates.
Oh,
every
she
moment
hates
of
it. Oh,
Yeah.
you had me. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So she hates it, and despite her hating it, you're almost just doing it. Yes,
pretty much.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll see this when are we estimating? Do you think you'll keep this through the end of the year?
Could be tomorrow. Could be 6 months from now.
Really? You're just
Yeah.
going to surprise, like one day you're going to get up. And will you get it done professionally, or will you trim this yourself?
I get my hair cut professionally by a member in hair, so I used to cut my own hair
Yeah.
all the time. But eventually I'll just go like, it's time.
Yeah.
And I won't have any particular, you see these guys that grow these beards down here and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't cut it, it's my identity. It's like, this is not my identity.
No.
This is just,
It's just fun. Yeah.
it just occasionally grows.
When I had my beard from last time, I actually got it done. When I grow it out, I like to get it professionally shaved when
Yeah.
I do it, instead of just like, you
Sure.
know, this isn't very long, obviously, but
Yep.
yeah, that's cool though. It's good look, man. Yeah, I mean, why not?
For those that can't, yeah.
Cool, man. Well, this was fun.
Yeah.
Good,
it was.
good chatting. I got through pretty much everything.
Yeah. Went like full hour, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So we'll see what makes the final cut. Yeah.
What do you mean? I thought everything will.